Hi, my name is Sam. This story is entirely fictional and created solely for entertainment. Any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. Look, if I could choose one day to erase from my memory, it would be the day the city council decided that I, the person who has organized the Pingo Doce Festival of Lights for 15 years, would have to share command with her asterisk. Listen, you need to understand what Christmas means to me. It's not just a holiday, it's not just gift exchanges. In Pingo Doce, Christmas is our soul. It's when the city, which spends the whole year kind of gray, explodes in color. And the lights, the lights were mine. I knew where every string of lights had to go, which street needed more brightness to hide the bad asphalt, and which corner of the main square was begging for a fiber optic angel. I am tradition. I am warm Ellied, that yellow one that reminds you of a fireplace. I am the giant Santa Claus that lights up the eyes of children and adults who have already forgotten what it's like to be a child. Then, last year, she arrived, Helena. Just saying the name, I already feel a shiver down my neck, a mixture of anger and, well, back then, it was just pure anger. Helena came from the capital, full of diplomas, full of ideas about sustainability, minimalist design, and sensory experience. I call that a lack of Christmas spirit. For me, Christmas has to be tacky, it has to be exaggerated, it has to be so bright you can see it from space. Helena wanted abstract trees, cold light, ice blue, and a harp choir that made you want to take a nap in the middle of the square. Our rivalry, you understand, wasn't professional, it was personal, it was almost theological. It was the battle between the country spirit and the chic without grace. The first meeting we had together, I already smelled trouble. She wore an impeccable suit, black, looked like she was going to a funeral, not to discuss the joy of lights. I was wearing my reindeer sweater, the ugliest one I could find, purely out of provocation. I think, she began, sliding her long fingers over a spreadsheet, that we should focus on energy efficiency. The operational cost of your magic sleigh is unsustainable, and the visual pollution is, well, it's aggressive. I took a deep breath, counted to 10. Remembering that I was there to serve the community and not to strangle my coworker. Helena, I replied, my voice sweet as burnt sugar, the magic sleigh is the main attraction. People come from neighboring cities to see the robotic Santa Claus that sings jingle bells in Spanish. It's not visual pollution, it's magic. Magic doesn't have a cost spreadsheet, it has emotion. She smiled, and her smile was the worst thing. It wasn't a smile of agreement, it was a smile of someone who just diagnosed you with an incurable disease and is being polite about it. I understand your sentimental attachment, but the committee demands modernization. And I was hired to modernize. She was hired to modernize. And I, who dedicated my life to this, was demoted to guardian of old junk. We spent the following weeks in this cold war of twinkling lights. I hid the boxes of blue LEDs, she had the power cut to my inflatable reindeer depot. It was hell. But the worst, what really got to me, was the way she carried herself. Helena was impeccable. She never lost her composure. I could scream, I could gesticulate, I could throw a styrofoam snowman at her, and she would just adjust her glasses and respond with a calm that made me want to explode. She saw me as a noisy obstacle, a dinosaur that needed to be extinct in the name of good taste. And what did I see in her? I saw the personification of my frustration. I saw everything I thought the world had lost, the ability to marvel at excess, at uncommitted brightness. But, and here's the detail I only realized much, much later. I also observed her too much. I observed how her hair fell when she leaned over the electrical maps. I observed the tense line of her shoulders when she was stressed, although she would never admit it. I observed the way she bit the tip of her pen, a habit that betrayed her icy facade. I told myself, I observe her to anticipate her moves. It's war strategy. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. It was an attraction to irritation. It was like looking at a fire, Horrible, destructive, but impossible to look away. The tension was at its peak. There were only 10 days until the official lighting, the big event that brought tourists and saved local commerce. We were in the control room, which was basically an old warehouse, smelling of mold and new wiring. I was trying to convince the technician to use more extension cords on Joy Street, and Helena was in the corner, calling I don't know who, probably to complain about my existence. "What are you doing now, Helena?" I asked, without patience. She hung up the phone and looked at me, those brown eyes, which always seemed to evaluate my level of inadequacy. "I'm trying to figure out why the Chinese supplier of our main LED panel is delayed. They promised delivery 3 days ago." "What's the main panel?" "Oh, you mean that giant screen that's going to show conceptual videos of snowflakes?" I already said, nobody wants conceptual video. People want to see the talking nativity scene, I ordered. "The talking nativity scene was vetoed by the committee. It's in bad taste and the batteries," she retorted dryly. "And yes, the LED panel is the focal point of modernization. It's what will put us on the map." We argued for another 20 minutes. Voices rising, the technician pretending to be deaf. I was about to declare that I would use the budget to buy 1,000 meters of glitter Christmas ribbon, just to make her have a nervous breakdown, when her phone rang again. This time, she answered and her face changed. It was no longer the mask of superiority. It was panic, a cold panic, but visible. I stopped breathing. I knew that if Helena was in a panic, the problem was huge. She listened for a long minute, just nodding her head. When she finally lowered her cell phone, her hand was trembling slightly. "What happened?" I asked. Anger momentarily replaced by morbid curiosity. Helena looked at me, and for the first time I saw something that wasn't contempt. It was despair. And, strangely, need. The lead panel, her voice was low, almost a whisper. The ship transporting the panel and all the special wiring had a problem at the port. An accident with a container. Our material was destroyed. 10 days until the lighting and the focal point of modernization. The great trump card she used to humiliate me in recent weeks turned into scrap at the bottom of a port. The silence in the warehouse was heavy. The technician finally stopped pretending he was busy with a loose wire and stared at us. I should have laughed, should have done a victory dance. Should have said, "Serves you right, Helene, for trusting Chinese technology instead of my good old fiberglass, Santa Claus." But I couldn't, because I knew that if the main event failed, the whole city failed. And my legacy, my years of dedication, would go down with her lead panel. This is bad," I managed to say. An epic understatement. Helena ran her hand through her hair, undoing the perfection of her hairstyle, which was a sign that her world was really falling apart. "It's not bad, it's catastrophic. The committee invested heavily in this. We don't have a plan B with this magnitude. What are we going to do with the main stage? It's an empty hole." "What about the magic sleigh?" I asked, hopefully. She glared at me. "The magic sleigh has been broken since last year. Have you forgotten? The robotic Santa's arm is stuck in the desperate wave position, and he only sings the first verse of Jingle Bells, right?" She had a point. I had postponed fixing the magic sleigh because the budget went to her LED panel. We both, the two organizers who hated each other with the intensity of 1,000 suns, were facing a catastrophe that united our failures. "We have to tell the mayor," I said, grabbing my cell phone. "No." Her hand grabbed my wrist. It was a quick touch, but the electricity of that contact made me drop my cell phone. It was the first time she touched me, and the sensation wasn't disgust, but shock. The warmth of her skin, even through my reindeer sweater. She immediately withdrew, but her eyes didn't unstick from mine. "If we tell the mayor now, he'll cancel the event or fire us. He'll say it's lack of planning. We need a solution, quick and secret." Secret. That word had a different weight. It meant that, for the first time, Helena and I would be on the same side. Against the world, against the committee, against disaster. "What kind of solution?" I asked, crossing my arms. "We can't rebuild a giant LED panel in 10 days. Helena walked to the window. Outside, Pingo Doce was starting to decorate, the residents hanging their homemade ornaments, unaware that the main stage would be empty. "We need something grand," she murmured. "Something that uses what we already have, what's still in good condition." I thought for a moment. My mind was still foggy from anger, and, I admit, from the heat of her touch. I have the old structures. Wooden arches, fabric banners, the LED curtains from 5 years ago. They're in the old depot. But that's not modern, Helena. That's rustic. She turned to me, and in her eyes I saw something I never expected to see: respect. Rustic can be beautiful, if done right. If we combine the rustic with the contemporary elements I have, lights with neutral tones, a more organic design, we can create something unique. I blinked. Helena, the queen of cold light and minimalism, was proposing to use my old stuff. Are you serious? I asked, suspicious. You, who said my decorations were visual pollution, want to use them. I don't want to use them the way you use them, she corrected, with that tone that always irritated. I want to adapt them. I want to give them a new purpose. And for that, I need you to trust me. Trust. A word loaded with irony. And why would I trust you? I challenged. You spent weeks trying to erase everything I built. Helena took a step forward, and the proximity made me hold my breath, because right now we're both sinking together, and I'm tired of fighting with you. I'm tired of pretending I don't respect your work. I was stunned. Helena, respecting me, I admit, she continued, lowering her voice, that your decorations have soul, they have passion, and I know mine have technique, but they lack heart. If we combine the two, we can save this. It was an olive branch, and I knew that if I didn't accept it, we would both fail. Okay, I said, reluctantly. But if we're going to do this, we do it my way too. No more vetoes, no more spreadsheets. This is improvisation under pressure. Deal, she said. And for the first time, Helena smiled. A real smile. We spent the next 10 days in a frenzy. The old depot became our war room. We unboxed old structures, reconfigured lights, improvised hanging systems. Helena brought her modern lights, and I brought my rustic chaos. What started as functional cooperation slowly became something else. One night, we were working until 3 a.m. I was on a ladder, trying to attach a fabric banner to a wooden arch, and Helena was below, holding the flashlight. A little to the left, she instructed. Your left, or mine? I asked, already losing patience. Mine. No. Wait. Yours. God. We need a universal system for directions. I laughed. It was the first time I laughed with her, not at her. Helena, the universal system is called point with your finger. She pointed, and I adjusted. When the banner was finally in place, I climbed down from the ladder, sweaty and tired. You know, I said, grabbing a bottle of water, you're not as insufferable when you're not trying to impress the committee. She raised an eyebrow. And you're not as chaotic when you're focused on something real. We looked at each other. And in that look, something shifted. It was no longer just professional respect. It was connection. Why do you hate me so much? I asked, suddenly. The fatigue had lowered my filter. Helena was surprised by the direct question. She took a moment to respond. I don't hate you, she said, finally. I envy you. Envy me. I almost choked on the water. You, with all your diplomas and your minimalist chic, envy me. I envy your freedom, she explained. You create without thinking about what others will think. You don't care about criticism. You just do. And I'm always worried about perfection, about approval. I can't allow myself to fail. I was silent. That was the most honest thing Helena had ever said to me. You know what, Helena? Perfection is boring, and you're not as perfect as you think. She frowned. That was supposed to be a compliment. Yes, because your imperfection is what makes you interesting. Like now, with your hair messy and your shirt dirty with paint, you're more real. Helena laughed. A short laugh, but genuine. And you're more bearable when you're not throwing tantrums, she retorted. From that night on, the dynamic changed. We still argued, but it was playful, not aggressive. We discovered that we worked well together because we compensated for each other. I brought spontaneity, and she brought structure. I brought warmth, and she brought precision. And, somewhere between extension cords and hanging lights, I started to notice things I had ignored before. Like the way Helena bit her lip when she was concentrating, or the way she smiled when something finally worked, or how her eyes lit up when she saw the result of our work. I tried to convince myself it was just admiration, but I knew it was more. On the night before the official lighting, we were doing the final test. The main stage, which had been an empty hole, was now a fusion of rustic and contemporary. Wooden arches intertwined with modern lights, fabric banners danced with LED curtain, and the whole thing had a warmth that neither of us could have achieved alone. "It's perfect," Helena whispered, observing our work. "No," I corrected. "It's imperfectly perfect." She looked at me and smiled. "You're right." We were there, side by side, looking at what we had created together. And I felt an urge I had never felt before. "Helena," I began, nervous. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why did you really come to Pingo Duce? A person with your resume could work anywhere. Why here?" She was silent for a moment. Then she sighed. "Because I was tired of the capital. Tired of pretending to be cold and efficient. I wanted to find something real, something that still had soul. And ironically, I found it fighting with you." My heart raced. And now I asked, "Now that we're not fighting anymore?" Helena turned to me, and in her eyes, I saw the same uncertainty I felt. "Now, I don't know. But I think I'm starting to understand why I spent so much time observing you." "You observed me?" I asked, surprised. "Of course. You're magnetic. Even when I hated you, I couldn't stop looking." That was the confession I needed to hear. "Helena," I said, taking a step closer, "I think I hate you a little less than before." "Just a little?" she asked, with a smile. "Okay, a lot less. Maybe. Maybe I don't hate you at all." "Me neither," she admitted. And then, in the depot that had been our battlefield, under the lights we had created together, I kissed Helena. It wasn't a soft or romantic kiss. It was an electric kiss, charged with all the tension we had accumulated. It was the kiss of two people who had spent months fighting attraction disguised as hatred. When we separated, we were both breathless. "This is unexpected," Helena said, still holding my face. "Is it?" I asked, smiling. "I think we both knew this would happen." She laughed. "Maybe. But that doesn't make it any less complicated." "Complicated is our specialty," I replied. "We spent the night there, talking, laughing, and yes, kissing more. It was the strangest and most wonderful night of my life." The next day, the official lighting was a resounding success. The crowd was amazed by the fusion of styles, the mix of warm and cold light creating a magical effect. But what they didn't know was the real story behind those lights. The story of two women who hated each other and discovered that sometimes love hides behind the brightest battle. Helena and I continued to work together. And yes, we continued to argue, because that was part of who we were. But now, the arguments ended with kisses, not insults. Pingo Doce had its best Christmas ever. And I discovered that the truest love, the most electrifying one, isn't the one that fits into spreadsheets, but the one that explodes without warning, with the intensity of 10,000 lights turning on at the same time. And believe me, folks, cold light and warm light, when mixed, create the most beautiful color of all. And that color, I discovered, is ours.